So, welcome, Martin. Do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself and Acterys?
Good morning, Rishi. It's great to be with you this morning. My name is Martin Kratke. I'm the founder of Acterys. We specialize in solutions for automating data integration and all aspects of planning, so from budgeting, forecasting, and so on, typically in larger environments with a lot of users and a lot of data. I've been in this space for the last 20 years, working on analytics and planning solutions with nearly all major platforms out there. And we saw a better way in 2015 to enable what's called now XP&A, Extended Planning and Analytics, in a more effective way, where as opposed to having specialized standalone solutions, we integrate with the market-leading analytics platforms, Power BI, and also Excel, allowing better analytics capabilities, quicker time to value, and much lower cost.
Great. Look forward to hearing more about it. So, hi everyone. Thanks for joining, or watching live, or watching back the replay if you're watching back the replay. So, my name is Rishi. I'm a group manager at Avid. It's the Microsoft arm of Accenture, essentially. It's a joint venture between Accenture and Microsoft. So I work in the Power BI space, and I specialize in Power BI governance, so helping organizations deploy Power BI at scale, looking at the operating model, the security, and all the settings they need. And I'm a chartered accountant by background, so in the community, and I run two main communities at the moment. One is called Learn Data Insights, which is courses and quizzes, help people prepare for Microsoft exams. And the other one is Power Platform Finance. And we've got a conference coming up next month, the 24th of September in London, where we're going to do financial reporting with Power BI. I'm in the process of building a course for that as well. So hopefully that will all come together in a few weeks' time. And Acterys is one of the tools that I've been working with and looking at as part of this Power Platform Finance activity, and really excited to showcase some of the functionality that Acterys has and how it can help finance teams, especially with things like consolidation and planning. So I think how we're going to run this session is a little bit of a role play. So I'm going to take on the role of a finance manager in an organization who's having some challenges with consolidation and reporting. And Martin is going to come in as Acterys and see how Acterys can help with these finance solution challenges. So if you do have any questions, do please post them and post in the chat, and I can share them here and we can answer them live. So with that, let's get started. So hi Martin, thanks for coming in today. So our finance team are spending a lot of time consolidating and collecting data across our different entities and cleaning that data ready for reporting. So much so that we don't have anywhere near enough time to actually create the reports or do the analysis we need. Is this something Acterys can help with?
Yes, absolutely. And I guess the best thing is to see it quickly.
Sure.
So the finance people will be familiar with the challenge that when they do their reporting, they have to get that.
Sorry, I'm just going to add the screen in. Yeah, hopefully people can see that now. Yeah, sorry, great.
So finance people will be familiar with the challenges to get to the data. And historically, this was done in a relatively ineffective way. Mostly using spreadsheets, and then the process typically started with copy and pasting data from whatever the accounting data source was, and then aggregating and consolidating this data. And this had to be done in many cases manually over and over again, typically taking half of the half of the month to put all this together. And it gets even more complex if you have, larger groups where you have subsidiaries that have their own accounting systems, and so then you have to collect the data from them. They have to put it in a spreadsheet. You have to collect them. You have to aggregate them, and if there's an error, then the whole process starts again and will delay everything by a few days again.
Right,
So
what this can connect to Xero here, QuickBooks. What else can it connect to?
Yes, correct. So what we are aiming is to completely automate the process of integrating your data sources. We at the moment support the major cloud-based accounting systems, for example, systems like Xero, QuickBooks, and so on, but also systems that are not directly accounting systems, but still relevant for finance people, like, for example, for billing, Stripe, and timesheet recording, and CRM systems. And so we're aiming to make the process really very, very simple. So you sign up in 2 minutes, and then you just select your solution, click on add, and that automatically adds all the data from this accounting system for as many entities as you want to. So you can see I've got one entity here, and I can add as many entities as I want. I can even combine different ones. So if you have, one NetSuite, one of your subsidiaries is using NetSuite, another one is using QuickBooks, Xero, you just add them. That's really just one click, and it automatically creates a data warehouse where the data is already perfectly prepared for analysis and consolidation.
Right. Okay, great. So where does this data land? Where does it go?
So the data goes to the likely optimal data store for this kind of requirement. It goes to Azure SQL. So SQL Server is the leading database platform at the moment in the world. And the beauty is it is supported by nearly any client tool. Obviously, you can use it with Power BI and Excel, but you can also use it with nearly any other tool. So it is a very proven standard. And from a security perspective, which is obviously very, very high priority for finance people, it is as good as it gets to ensure that you're operating with your data as securely as possible.
Okay, so do we need to get our IT team to set up an Azure SQL database for us?
No, so as you can see, it is focused on the business user. So the business user just adds the companies that they want, and then they just click a button here, and that automatically gets them to a Power BI report or an Excel report. We support both. So they get automatically from here they get the Power BI report for the companies that they have added. So here in this case, I can see I've added 4 companies, and I immediately get the consolidated view. Or I can also do my own consolidation. So if I just want to see what's going on with AU and global, I can just select them, then I get the aggregation of these 2 entities. And as you can see, already perfectly formatted with variance charts, with financial reports. The users can drill down to particular levels. They have what we call smart tooltips. So if I move the mouse pointer to a particular data point, I can see what was the trend in that and what are the specific transactions behind this. So it makes the analysis for the user very simple, and they get this out of the box with the key metrics. What's the cash position? What's the EBIT percentage? And in a similar fashion, we have a wide variety of pre-prepared reports, but this is just a normal Power BI environment. So the users can exactly configure this to their needs, respectively create new reports. So we're not forcing them into, you have to use the report as is here, but you can use and change the report. So if you go to edit here, anything that you see here can be changed. And so you see this is now what we generate from the data warehouse. If you do this in Power BI, it will either be very difficult or impossible, because these are not simple integrations. With accounting systems, you typically have API-based integration. You have complex authentications, token-based authentications, where unfortunately the integration with which Power BI is not easy. So if you do this on your own, it will likely take weeks to set this up. And but we can give you this just after a 2-minute sign up and another minute of loading or connecting to the data sources that you want to use, and then you automatically get the reports. And the same thing for the Excel side. So where is my Excel? So you see here now, this is our Excel template, and it's the same thing. So it's the same data that you saw before. So I've got the different companies here. I've got all the fields of the data model. But here I'm working now in Excel, and as opposed to having manual static data here, this is connected to the database. So if I want to see now what's going on in 2020, I can just select that and get the data that I want to see with all the bells and whistles. So if I want to, for example, use here timeline indicators, I can just select them here and get the data as I want it to. And we give the user the typically used report. So for example, this is an accruals financial statement, and we have the same thing on a cash basis. So to see what's your cash flow like. And then we have, so you saw before, this is a pivot table in the end, where you just drag and drop what you want to use. So for example, if you want to have a different detail here, so you want, for example, the account code, you can just drag the detail that you want here. And now you can see I have the account code as well if I want to see this by the account code. So the users can work with this like a pivot table. But there's also the option, if you want more flexibility that you can't do with a pivot table, you can use what's called a formula report. So you have a formula that's picking the coordinates, what you want to see. So for example, I want to see now the total expenses, all tracking categories for month number 10 in 2021. And that will return this. The beauty is now you've got complete flexibility. So you can do your own subtotals and you can change things exactly as you want to. So you have more flexibility for the reporting that in a pivot table is not that simple.
Yeah, I find out users will love this. They work in Excel all the time, so this will be brilliant. So the data is not in this Excel workbook, then the data is somewhere else. That's
exactly right. So we're just using Excel as a container. So the users don't have to worry about, I don't know, VLOOKUPs and consolidating data or collecting data from different subsidiaries. The subsidiary can connect their accounting system once, and then everything is in the central data mart. And in Excel, you just connect to this data mart. So it's always correct. So the users always get the correct data. If they refresh or if they change a filter, they get the data exactly as it is, and you don't have to worry anymore that, I don't know, there's formula errors or other things that you can encounter using Excel.
Great. And yeah, I mean, obviously the Excel workbook size can be quite small as well, then I imagine, because there's no data in here. If it's just formulas,
exactly. So the first thing is you only have one workbook, but you can get any report that you want with this one workbook, because you just change the detail that you want, and that gives you the data that you want to see. So as opposed to having 100 spreadsheets flying around, everything is in the one workbook, and you just change the filters as you need to.
Yeah, that looks amazing. And how about updating the data? So some of our data is coming from different systems like QuickBooks and Xero, and some data actually we maintain this as maybe Excel spreadsheets, and we want to make sure that we can bring that into the central data warehouse. How would we do that?
Yes, and so as we mentioned, this is, I guess, one of our key strengths to allow the users quite unparalleled planning options. So you can see here, this is a very comprehensive overview where we cover a wide variety of planning requirements: capacity planning, CapEx, driver-based planning, ESG, financials, HR, and so on. So I can just click on the particular, and I can also see where is the workflow at with this planning submission. And I can then cover all these different planning aspects here, and not just read the data from the source systems, but also write back and do my planning here. And this works in the same way in Excel. So in Excel, you also have the option to do all these planning steps. So you can see here now, this is now in Power BI, where I can now on any level that I want to add my my numbers. For example, if I want to change this to 35,000, I can immediately say, okay, this will drive the cost of sales up to 346,000. But I also have the option now to enter data and change data on any level of the model. So, for example, if I want to have an increase here of 10%, see this was now increased by 10%, and this has automatically been applied now to all the levels in the model. So if I drill down to the cost of sales accounts, I can see now that this 10% change was automatically applied correctly to all the underlying cost of sales accounts. And then obviously also across all the aspects of the hierarchy. So if I want to do this for the entire group, if I want to do this for example, an entire quarter, you have the option to change these things on any level. And this looks simple, but you have to keep in mind that these changes affected thousands of values, because if you're on a high grouping, for example, all companies and an entire quarter or even an entire year, account groups, then you have to modify a lot of data in this group. And this is what our system is built for. So to handle high data volume enterprise planning requirements, where you have a lot of users planning at the same time with a lot of data as well. So we have customers like Puma, they have 1 million products, and they need to handle these planning scenarios effectively, optimize plans as well. So where do I produce what product to optimize my outputs? And our system can support with all these requirements.
Great. So are these people, are we overwriting our data here? So our data in a data warehouse, are we just changing it in this matrix that you've got here in Power BI?
Yeah, yes, correct. So, I mean, obviously what's happening here is you have scenarios. And you have as many scenarios as you...
We don't want people changing our data.
No. So this is typically everything in our system is limited by user rights.
Okay.
So the users can only change what they're allowed to change. You saw before, when there's a workflow there, they have a certain window where they can change the data. When they submit it, they can't change it anymore. But these workflows you can set up in whatever way you want. But obviously you wouldn't allow them to change actual, so that's typically locked. But their planning scenarios, these you can change and then play around as you want to. And the users can also create their own ones. So for example, if I go here to dimension edit, I can change my scenarios. So this works for all the dimensions in the model. So you can see in this case, we have a lot. We have accounts, we have calendars, we have employees, and we have scenarios. And you can see that the scenarios that we saw before are now here. And I can add now a new scenario here. Let's say that is Rishi, and can then immediately plan on that scenario. Also with the option to copy. So for example, if I don't want to enter everything again, but I want to copy the data from from my budget scenario to the new Rishi scenario, and want to play around with a few drivers. And that's what the users can do directly here. So they can then choose the dimensions that they want to use and do then the scenario planning. So for example, if I want to copy a scenario now from forecast to the new Rishi scenario, you see this is now here. I can just save this, click on copy, and that would copy all the data of the forecast scenario into the Rishi scenario, and then I can do my assumptions. So for example, if you have driver-based assumptions, so in here we see...
Could I do it where people can only update for their own organizational unit?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So this is all limited by user rights. That also where you don't need to be an IT expert. Even the business users could administrate this themselves. And so we have wizards here that for the people that are familiar with Power BI, this works similar to RLS. So you see here we have rules where I can exactly define what the users are allowed to see. For example, so this user group is allowed to write on budget. This user group is allowed to write on budget for 2020. And you can set up these rules exactly as you need them, and they will then automatically apply wherever the users are working from. So if the users are working from Excel, but if they work from Power BI, they can never do more than was given to them here in this administrator.
So we could get people to set up their own budgets for, their own teams, their own business units, and then it consolidates it all, and they can see it. They can see it straight away. I think there wasn't it. When you updated the values, you didn't have to go and refresh the Power BI data model. How did you do that?
Yes, that's exactly right. So, for example, if I start here now a simulation, and so we support some more sophisticated ways where you can do this also directly on a chart. So you see here, if I increase the quantity to a particular number, I can immediately see what are the effects of that from a total quantity, but then also from other KPIs, total sales, gross margin. And in this way, I can play around with all the different scenarios. For example, if I want to change my pricing, and say I want to increase my pricing to 3,000 until the end of the year, I can now enter the new price for this scenario and save it, and see then immediately what are the outcomes of that change.
Okay, great. So yeah, it's live. The changes are just appearing straight away. As soon as you make the changes, you can see the impact of them on your financial statements, on your. Oh wow, that's incredible. And how do we make sure that people are entering the right kind of data? How do you make sure people aren't entering? I mean, maybe they're not entering at this level for the driver-based planning, but how do you make sure people, when they're submitting data, they're not entering data against account codes that no longer exist or something like that?
Yeah, so I mean, everything is driven by the central data model. So the data model was either created by the source systems, or you have the option to generically create data models from your own sources. So for example, if you have spreadsheets or your own databases, you can create the data model that way as well. And you have this dimensional data model, for example, with the accounts. And if an account is there, and that's typically coming automatically from the source system, then you can plan against it. Obviously, if you really plan against the wrong account, so it's a human error, there's not much we can do, because we don't know that they shouldn't put the numbers against this account. But there's ways to make it as easy as possible. So for example, we have validations as well, where the users can only enter certain data. So I'll show you, maybe this is probably better to see, where you can validate.
Is that possible, maybe?
Sorry, say again, Rishi.
Would you be updating it from Excel?
Yes, we can do that as well.
Our users will be more familiar with Excel than the Power BI matrix.
Yeah, I'll show you that as well. But just quickly here, because I'm already there. So if we are here, the users can now enter their data here, but it's restricted by certain validations. For example, they can only choose a particular product group here, and they can only choose from a list. So there's no way that they can type in the wrong product group. And then also this can be anything. This can also be icon sets, for example. This can be date pickers, so that I ensure that they enter the right date. So this is how it works here, but then you have the same options in Power BI, and I'll show you quickly. So for example, if you want to edit something, I can go here now and see now this is my account dimension, where I have this. So the key for this account is the organization name, the account code, and the account name, and then I have multiple attributes against it. So this is used in this company. this is this bank account is related to it. This is this asset class and so on. And if I want to, I can now edit my dimension here in the same way as you can from Excel. So, for example, I can say, okay, this is now a bank account, and write then this change, this mapping. So if you do group consolidation, you want to map your single entity accounts to a group account, you can maintain these accounts directly from here. And then the only thing you do is you just publish them, and then these get updated in the central database. So you have the flexibility of Excel to edit and maintain your model only where you're allowed to. So you can't change these things here because these are keys, but you can add your own fields. So for example, I've added a mapping here. You have the option also to do the modeling here. So I can say I want to add a new column, and that column is now called Rishi, which is, for example, from my mapping. And now if I go back to the, let's refresh this. So you see you have now the Rishi scenario, and I can now take, for example, this mapping here and say now for a Rishi scenario, I want to have it this way.
Okay, great. So yeah, this looks really good. So centrally, we can maintain our own, chart of accounts at a central level, for example, and then ask people to upload their transactions, and it has to conform to our chart of accounts, and it has to make sure. So we have that data integrity checks when they upload their data. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So you see, you have a pivot table here now in Excel, but this is a pivot table where you can change. So you can write back, and then do whatever changes you want, and then commit them to the database, and this will change the central database, similar to what you saw before in Power BI.
Great. Okay, so just thinking about how we build this data warehouse, let's say, obviously, I think some of our data is coming from different entities and source systems. Maybe there's a SQL database, I think, there's Zero, QuickBooks. And what about then for people to upload transactions manually? How does that workflow look? And can they do that from Excel?
So, I mean, in the end, this would be a transaction. So I've changed this to 9,000. So for the account 200 sales in January 21, I have changed this to 9,000. So that, and in this case, it's an aggregation. So I've done this for all my companies.
Mm-hmm.
So it would then.
This is for planning, right?
This is for planning, yes. So this would then automatically update the transactions, every single transaction that's behind this value. So it would update 200 sales for January for company AU, for company UK, for company US. So this would write back and affect a lot of transactions.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the planning scenario. This is great. Could we actually have a look at the maybe consolidation scenario? So where we've got different data coming in from different entities, and we want to kind of bulk upload our data from different business units into a central place and do intercompany reconciliation and things like that.
Yep. So let me see here. I think I have a. So you see here, you've got the consolidated performance, and what's typically required here is very often you have a global situation where you have entities that have different foreign exchange rates. So the first step is to get them all to a group currency. So you see here, we've got the group currency, we've got the local currency, and we handle this completely automatically. So you just specify what's the currency for this entity, what's your group currency, and then we automatically load the rates. So we load the rates for every day automatically, and then you have the calculations automatically there so that the local currency and the group currency is consolidated. So obviously it only makes sense to look at the group currency if you look at the consolidated picture. Mm-hmm. But then, as you can see here, there's also then the necessity to eliminate intercompany transactions. So if you have a group and they're trading with each other, the entities are trading with each other, then you need to eliminate this in the for the group entity. That's what we're handling as well. So we support a variety of different ways to handle group currencies, intercompany eliminations. So you can specify, this entity or this contact is a group company, and then that will automatically eliminate that. You can do it manually. So you can say, hey, I want to eliminate these transactions, and then it's a typical double accounting entry where you just change debit to credit and enter the booking. So that would be the way the intercompany elimination is done.
Great. Okay, that looks really good. And what about, so could we have a look at people how they would actually upload their data from Excel into the database?
Yeah, certainly. I'll show you quickly. So let's say you don't have the data in a system that we support, then you can also upload this manually. So we have what's called a cube wizard that allows you to automatically load data from a spreadsheet into the data model. Sorry, this was the wrong one. So this is the one here.
Nice. What are we looking at here? What is this screen?
So this is our modeler. So this is where the users can maintain their model, so that they can maintain the dimensions. They can maintain we call them cubes, but in the end it's relational fact tables. This is the actual fact records that you want to store. So this is typically defined by the dimensions that you want to use. And then if you want to load data from other sources, then you can do it this way. So for example, I want to do this for Excel. I can just point now to the Excel file. So let me see if I find one that's useful. I'm just looking for a source file that's interesting, but I guess it doesn't matter. I'll just take any one here now. This is not good. Here we go. So that's it. So demo, account, company, website, sample, subscription type. These are all not that useful. I normally have, but this is a different computer today.
Select an Excel file here, and it will go into our.
I mean, I'll take it now. It will not be that useful, but so that
sure, no, but
the audience can see it.
Yeah, this is what I was looking for. So we can actually, rather than just connecting our Power BI directly to Excel spreadsheets, because we have data quality issues and different versions of the Excel file and things like this. So we can actually upload those Excel spreadsheets into a central database, make sure that we have that data integrity, that data quality centrally, and then people can use that as the basis for their dimensions.
That's exactly right, yes.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's definitely a big step ahead of where the finance teams hopefully are. So, and is there anything where we can have a look at some of that workflow? So if we want to, do our month-end close process, we need to reach out to all of the business units and they need to submit their transactions or adjustments for the period. Can we have a look at how that might work?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll show you quickly. So you saw before, so I put in my numbers here with all the bells and whistles that we have. And then I have the option to submit this. So for example, I can say now this run 7 is now submitted. And then this means that this gets locked. So I can't change it anymore. And it will then follow a particular workflow. So in this case, the workflow is set up that my superior is informed. Martin has submitted his his financial plan. And then I get a link to this. So I get an email with Martin has submitted with a link to this report. Now I can review it and then say, okay, this is approved. Then it becomes part of the overall plan. Or I can say, this I reject this. And then the person that has submitted this gets another email saying, hey, you need to change this and fix it. And so that the process goes back and forth. And so you have the option to comment, all these things as well. So that's an important thing. So you can see here we have similar to Excel comments here, where for every data point you can put in a comment, you can explain what your assumptions were, and add and edit comments. And so this works on the one hand for the data, but also for the workflow processes.
Oh wow! Okay, so we can add comments if they have an adjustment or they've changed a number. Could we make sure they add a comment? Could we force them to add a comment if they add adjustments and things like that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So if we look at this one,
in the report, we can actually see those comments as well. Those comments come through into our actual reporting as well.
Correct. So you can see here, and this is the power of Power BI. I can say I've got a required column. The required column is comment. Then the users have to enter the comment for that column.
Brilliant. Yeah, and if it comes through into the report, I mean, I've had so many cases where we've had an adjustment, and then we have to trawl back through the Excel spreadsheets and see where if someone has entered a comment to say why that adjustment has been done, or reach out to the person and emails back and forth to try and understand the numbers. So if we can have everything updated centrally, where business units can upload their numbers and their adjustments and then add commentary to it, and then that all flows through into our reporting automatically without any intervention and manual work, I think that will save us so much time as a central team in producing this.
Exactly. And this whole process it's very powerful to enter data, but with power you need control. So anything that happens in the system gets recorded. So I can see this user changed for these coordinates the value to this number. And then you have the option to filter. So I can filter by a particular user, I can filter by a particular area, a particular time period, and directly in Power BI, or if you want to, also in Excel. And I can also do this directly in my admin environment. You also have the option to access the logs. So if we look here, I can also see every single transaction that any user has done. So it is nothing will get unseen. So if something is changed, you have the record there.
For a long time, and we give them some Excel spreadsheets and some email trails, but they're not happy with that. This would be fantastic for them.
Exactly. Yeah. So no one can deny that it was them that changed this number or made this incorrect entry.
Yeah, this is great. So we have a log of everyone who's done it. We've got security, so we can restrict certain people. We can restrict certain fields, so they can only update their own business units. Obviously, we can stop people from overwriting actuals. If they're doing planning, they can just put their own scenarios. And we can consolidate from multiple business units. So, wow, yeah, I think this will really help with our period close process in terms of getting some of those adjustments, getting some of those transactions, and ensuring the data quality of those as well. If we've got data validation, as people are uploading stuff, currency conversion automatic, we've got intercompany reconciliations. So all of that will happen automatically, and then it comes into. And how often is our data refreshed? Can we set up a schedule to have it refreshed every day, or?
It depends. So you have full flexibility to set this up as you need to. So you can set up a job, and that job runs, I don't know, every day, every hour, whatever the requirement is, or you can manually kick it off. So you saw before in the integration, if you want to say, I want to really get the data from right now, you can kick off the update right now. And this is also, so we're handling this in a smart way. So we're only doing a delta update. So it's not like you have to load all the data again, but we only update what has changed, which means it's very fast as well.
And against this database, this is live changes as well. So this is direct query, right? Against
yes, I mean, so in the end, it's a database, and the users can choose the way they set it up. If you don't need planning, then it's typically better to use input mode because it's faster. If you need planning and real-time updates, then you can set it up as direct query. That is up to the user.
Yeah, I think for the planning scenarios, that's great because that's where you can then update those values on a matrix and see the impact straight away. So you can update your headcount utilization numbers that you're forecasting for the next month or quarter, and then see what your financial statements will look like.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and straight away, I think that would be really, really useful to our teams. And actually, if we could do this even in the meetings themselves, I guess, right? And that will, rather than having to go and prepare all the analysis and the forecast and then come back in the meeting and then have questions. And we've got all of the drill down capability in the reports.
Yeah, absolutely. You have drill down, you have drill through. So, for example,
we can drill down from our financial statements or our forecast financial statements into individual transactions.
So you can either drill down or you can drill through. So if I double click here, you get the underlying record for this particular value. So you have both. You can do the drill down into a more detailed level, or you can do the drill through, where you get then the records that make up this value.
Great. Yeah, and then in Power BI, we've got the visualization capability to try and understand what's driving our financial performance.
That's exactly right. Yes. So you have these very powerful artificial intelligence options. I might show you something quickly. Where is it? So if we go here to set, so you see here, I have a fair bit of an increase here. And so typically what you have to do is you have to do then drill downs and change the filters to find out where is this coming from. But with Power BI, you have the option of to say, explain the increase. And the system will now automatically go through all the different dimensions and details and come up with the best explanation for this increase. So we see we have a lot of increase in this company. We have a little bit less in the US company, which led to this 13,000 increase. And then we have a few other findings as well. So this here is based on an account. This here is based, again, on an account. So it automatically finds the key drivers that are leading to this increase.
Yeah, this is really good for analyzing those variances and understanding what's driving them, and much more easier to do this than the big Excel tables where we have to do that analysis manually.
Exactly.
The key influencer, what is that? I've come across that before.
So the key influences, I'm not sure if I have. So this obviously depends if there's something interesting in your data. In this case, it looks like we don't have some interesting findings. Let's see. This looks like. So here it would find interesting what's influencing particular outcomes, either positive outcomes or negative outcomes. And so in this data model, unfortunately, it hasn't found anything. But if you have, this is the issue with these demo data models, that there's not, if you don't have that much data and it's artificial data, then it typically doesn't find that much. But it would then find interesting outcomes and drivers. So what's driving a positive outcome? So for example, what's driving a high invoice, or what's driving a low invoice?
Okay, great. Yeah, this looks really good. I mean, yeah, this is a Power BI functionality. I've never seen this before, but it's great that you've surfaced this with our data. have given us these pre-built reports that show us all of these things without us having to build all of this ourselves or have all the skills in-house to be able to know how to do this reporting capability. So, we have had challenges hiring Power BI people with finance skills as well. They're very, very short supply in the market. So actually having the capability to have some pre-built reports that show really good practice, I think will really help us in our team. So
that's exactly right.
Yeah, this looks absolutely fantastic. Are there any other questions from anyone else that we have here? We've got a decomposition tree as well. Brilliant. Okay, great. So yeah, that more, again, really useful for seeing different breakdowns.
So this is a nice visual way of analyzing how different dimensions and attributes affecting, in this case, the invoice amount. And you see, okay, the UK company is the biggest one. They only do business in the default category, and then these are the customers. So you get immediately a very good idea of what's happening with your data without having to do a lot of drill downs and slicing and dicing, as we call it, pivot tables and all these things. But it gives you, with this decomposition tree, a very easy option to get a good idea of what's your data like.
Yeah, this is brilliant. So let's just do a quick recap of where Acterys can help with our finance team. So we've got the ability to connect into source systems like Xero, QuickBooks, and connectors that don't exist in native Power BI even as well, right? So even things that we can't connect or are very hard to connect directly into Power BI, we can bring all of that data. We can bring our own central data, our mapping tables, our chart of accounts, if we have them stored centrally. We can bring that into a central database, a data warehouse that we maintain. That's right? We can maintain this as a finance team centrally. We can then actually have the intercompany reconciliation done. We can have consolidation, currency conversion automatically into a group reporting currency. And we can have users update their numbers, put their adjustments against their numbers from Excel. So they can use Excel, which they love and know already. They can put commentary in there. That will all feed into our central database. We have a workflow around this as well. So we can, chase people, see who's done what. We've got a full audit trail of who's put their numbers in, who's uploaded their data, who hasn't. So we can really streamline that period close basis, our month end. And then once we've got all our data in here, we've got reports automatically produced for us based on that data, both in Excel and in Power BI, that show us variance analysis, that show us breakdowns, what's driving our financial performance. And then we've got the capability to actually do budgeting and forecasting and planning, where we can change a number and change a top level number by 10%, and it will break back all that down to all the underlying lines, and then we can see the impact of that straight away.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it better.
Okay, great. So we've got a question that one of the main advantages of Acterys. I think we've gone through quite a few of these already, but for anyone who's done this process manually or is doing this process manually with Excel and emails, and then having to face the auditors at the end of all of that to show where the adjustments have come in and who's done it, I think the advantages of using something like Acterys is really clear. So yeah, thank you for that. How do people get started with Acterys? Could we just have a look at how actually someone can maybe even try this for themselves, so the people watching back on the call?
Yeah, just go to our website, acterys.com, and there's an option there to start a trial. And we do typically a guided onboarding. So we want to make sure that the users have a good experience. So we have some at their side. Initially, it takes 10-15 minutes to make sure their experience is a good one, to get started, to link the data sources, to explain, what are the reports, how does the planning work, and so on. And then they can trial things free of charge, and if they like it, move forward with it.
Great. Okay, so they can just sign up themselves at Acterys.com, and they can sign up to a trial.
Exactly. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, great. Well, I think that's taken us just to an hour here. So thanks so much for your time, Martin. It was really, really good to see some of these features of Acterys, and I can see huge value for this for finance teams. Both on the consolidation and reconciliation side, but also in the planning and all of those other capabilities, and even the visual storytelling. I think is fantastic on the PPF report. We've got a question of how long does the trial period last for?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, great. Feel free to reach out to Martin. Let me put his LinkedIn, if that's okay, Martin. I'll put a link to your profile on the chat so people can reach out to you.
Yeah, I'm happy to coordinate, but we have offices across the globe, so it's typically better to work with someone that's close to you. But I can definitely coordinate this. But the best thing is to start the trial, because that will automatically connect people with the person that is most suitable for them, or the person closest to them.
Yeah, great. That's brilliant. Great. Do we have any other questions from anyone in there? Yeah, I think we've got some LinkedIn users who are not showing up on the profile. This is my first time using this technology. It's quite cool. Not quite sure how to see everyone who's actually there. It's showing 0 users, but we have someone coming in from LinkedIn. But if there are any other questions, feel free to reach out to Martin, or I'm happy to have a chat about it as well and share my experiences of just having a look and working with Acterys. And hope to see some of you at the Power Platform Finance Conference as well in September, either in London in person or virtually. And thank you for joining, or thank you for watching, and look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you very much, Rishi, and thanks everyone that joined in today.
Thanks, everyone.